Hello, Camila. How are you? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Teacher, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you too.
Okay, how are you?
Fine, a little bit tired, but very good actually.
That's great news. So we wait 2 more minutes for the rest of the class. If not, we start.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I guess we can start. Hello, Joe. How are you? Good evening. So let's see. Let me show you my screen. Please confirm you can see my screen.
I can see it, teacher.
Okay, so let me see. Give me just a second. Okay, so we are here according to our objectives for the module, and we're pretty much almost halfway. Okay, so we completed last week, but since we did not have class on Friday, we had to make up for this section. And today, what we're going to do is talk about greeting ideas to use transitions at the beginning of new paragraphs. But at the beginning, also, we can see how to use transitions maybe in between, at the end. We are always exposed to having transitions everywhere, but it's very crucial to know what to use in the beginning of each paragraph, especially when we know what type of essay we're going to talk to describe or to write about. Okay, so let's let's start. So who else joined? Oh, hello, Rodrigo, Mauricio, welcome, welcome, guys. So let me go to the presentation. So yes, reading ideas to use transitions at the beginning of new paragraphs. So let's get to it. At this point, we talked about punctuation. We talked about uh, some grammar structures. We talked about the use of transitions in general, now more specific in paragraphs at the beginning. So let's see. We have an introduction here. I need a volunteer for the reading. Anyone? Maybe Camila, you want to give it a shot?
Sure. Introduction. Do you struggle with how to start new paragraphs when you are writing? As a general rule, and to make things much easier, most paragraphs will begin with a transition. These words and phrases help show the relationship between the ideas you are presenting. This way, the reader can follow your thoughts more easily. On the other hand, without transitions, your writing will be difficult to read and risk coming off like a scattered collection of ideas. So let's take a look at how to start new paragraphs with transitions for better writing.
Thank you, Camila. So yes, at this point, we are talking about using transitions in the beginning. And like the text says, it helps us to identify where we are, and also very important, organize our ideas, because sometimes we have a bunch of ideas and we don't know, or we believe that we are organizing our ideas. Having a structured essay helps us organize our ideas and when to present them, whether you are uh, writing an essay about something that you are giving your point of view, or you are just presenting, just giving information or making a judgment. It depends. Whatever the reason it is in your behind your essay, when we use transitions within the structure of our paragraphs, helps us to have an even more organized structured essay. Up to here, guys, do you have any questions? No? Okay. So let's see. So what is a paragraph? First of all, yes, what is a paragraph? Let's get to it. So Rodrigo, can you help me with this paragraph? With this slide, I'm sorry.
Okay, teacher. A paragraph is a section of writing that presents one single topic. It's usually made up of more than one sentence and begins on a new line with a transition. Put simple, while writing paragraphs begin with a topic sentence, several details sentence on that topic, and a closing sentence. To
Yes,
provide a bit more detail, where writing paragraphs have logical and verbal breaks.
bridges, bridges,
Bridges.
bridges, yes. So put simply, well-written paragraphs begin with a topic sentence, several detailed sentences on that topic, and a closing sentence. Seems like each paragraph is its own essay after reading this, right? So we have a whole essay, introduction, body, conclusion, but seems like we're doing the same within each paragraph according to this information. So let's see. So what is the difference between logical and verbal bridges? Anyone knows? Logical and verbal bridges. Anyone? Anybody knows? Wants to give it a shot? No? Don't worry. We have an explanation just right here. Again, we are continuing on the definition or a description between a paragraph, a single paragraph, and an essay. So logical breaches, the same idea carries over from one sentence to another. Okay, yes, so we are in the same idea. Okay, verbal breaches. Now in this one we have different ideas. So keywords can be repeated in several sentences. Okay. Synonyms can be repeated in several sentences. So yes, this is very important, guys. So, do you feel sometimes when you are writing your essays that you don't want to sound too repetitive in using some of the words, some of the keywords? Anybody? Do you feel like you are repeating too much the same words? Anyone? Or there was no problem with synonyms? You're too quiet, guys.
In my case, I think that one of the words that I repeat a lot when I write is however.
Okay, why? Why is this your case with that transition?
I don't know, maybe I don't find most, the better synonym for that sentence. So for me, it's easier to use however, but I am trying to improve that.
Okay. So you find that transition is easier to manage, right? And you're correct. However, is a versatile transition word. You can use them. You can use it anywhere, pretty much. Doesn't matter if it's your introduction, your body statements, or your conclusion. You can have it everywhere. But remember that we need to find synonymous words so that we don't sound too repetitive in regards to that section, because we can be too repetitive in many ways, in repeating the ideas, in the context, and in this case repeating the words. Okay, anyone else wants to share? No problems with synonyms? Writer, maybe? Mauricio? Okay, and let's see. Another type of verbal breaches, pronouns, can refer to nouns in previous sentences, so we need to be careful to follow the structure in the context, pretty much, not to get lost whenever we are using transitions and moving from one statement to another one. And transition words can be used to link ideas from different sentences. Okay. And also these are called verbal breaches. Okay. Any questions in between logical and verbal breaches? So just by looking at this information, which bridge is the most common, or not the most common, but the most used according to the essays that we have been writing? Which bridges are the most common at this point, guys? Which ones are we using the most? Come on, guys, I need participation.
Maybe, for example, however, in addition, likewise.
Okay. And it seems that we are using more the verbal breaches, right? Logical breaches, perhaps at the beginning in our introduction. or at the end in our conclusion, and sometimes in some sections of our body. But verbal reaches are all over the place. We need them. Now, let's talk about more specific about a paragraph transition. Writer, can you help me with the reading? Hello. I don't think he's here, but let's see. Mauricio, can you help me with the reading? Can you hear me, guys?
Teacher,
Yes.
okay. What is a paragraph transition? A paragraph transition is a sentence or unique paragraph that helps the reader move from one paragraph to the next or from one idea to another. A transition is the first sentence of a new paragraph. Occasionally, the last sentence of the prior paragraph acts as the transition. When a writer wants to transition link to substantial paragraphs, they can use standalone transitional paragraph.
Okay. So up to here, we are being given a lot of information, okay? Again, we sound too repetitive, but it's important that we understand this. So a paragraph transition is a sentence or a unique paragraph that helps us, the reader and writer, to move from one paragraph, from one statement to the other one, or from one paragraph to the other one. It doesn't matter. Okay. And also, it seems like the last statement is giving us that beginning or that introduction to move on to the next paragraph. We are being given the idea of what to do it, how to do it, or what's coming. However, we have done this in the beginning with our thesis statement. The thesis statement helps us to pretty much tell the reader what's coming and what we're going to talk in our body. But we elaborate in our body. That's where these transitions come handy, and they help us to link paragraphs. Now, question, what is a substantial paragraph and what is a standalone transitional paragraph? Anybody knows? What is the difference? What are substantial paragraphs and what is a standalone transitional paragraph?
Maybe it has to do with the content of the paragraph. In the case of the substantial paragraphs, I think that is the ones that have more information or are the key for the essay in this case. And a standalone transitional paragraph is something that it's the paragraphs that can help you to move or change the ideas between one paragraph and another.
Okay. Yes, and a little bit no. Standalone transitional paragraphs, you have all of your ideas in one paragraph. A substantial paragraph, yes, you have more details and you are very, very specific doing a breakdown about your ideas. But remember, a standalone transitional paragraph is really big. Now, why is not recommended to use too many standalone transitional paragraphs? What do you think, Camila? Or anyone? Why? Why do you think? Because you have a really big paragraph and a lot of information inside, and you might get lost or get all the ideas mixed together. That's why it's not recommended to use a lot of a standalone transitional paragraphs unless it is needed. We're doing a research paper and an essay in regards to some medical background, some medical investigation, or new ceramics research from engineering, etc. That in those cases we do need a lot of detail in those paragraphs. Perhaps we need to use standalone transitional paragraphs, and we are citing a lot. Substantial paragraphs, on the other hand, it helps us give more details when it comes to maybe describing a work, an essay work, or an article, the type of essays that so far we have been working on. What are the names of the two types of essays we have written so far? Anybody remembers? Guys, anybody remembers what type of essays we have written so far?
Argumentative essays.
That was our first essay. What was the name of our first essay? Anybody knows? You don't remember, guys? Maybe I should not give any points today. Anybody remembers what two types of essays we have written so far? So, no? Really? Well, that gets me a little bit worried.
Expository and argumentative.
Okay. So only Camila remembers? Okay. And the first essay that we wrote about was an informative essay. The second essay we wrote about is the expository essay. Okay. And we have two more essays to write about. Now, so that we can know a little bit more about substantial paragraphs and standalone paragraphs, I have an example here. Give me just a chance to show you. Give me just a second. It's in the same information, so that I just need to get to that point. Okay, so let me show you the screen. So, explanation of a standalone paragraph, and this is one whole paragraph. Let's read the paragraph. It's actually very interesting, and I need a volunteer. Who hasn't participated yet? Okay. Anyone wants to give it a shot? Is Ryder back? No. Okay. Anyone wants to help me with the reading with the paragraph? Too many vacations for us guys. Too many days off. I'm joking. It's good to have vacations. Anyone? Anybody wants to read? Mauricio, Rodrigo?
Okay, me teacher.
Okay.
Gold, a precious metal, is prized for two important characteristics. First of all, gold has a lustrous beauty that is resistant to corrosion. Therefore, it's suitable for jewelry, coins, and ornamental purposes. Gold never needs to be polished and will remain beautiful forever. For example, a Macedonian coin remains as untarnished today as the day it was minted 23 centuries ago. Another important characteristic of gold is its usefulness to industry and science. For many years, it has been used in hundreds of industrial applications. The more recent use of gold is in astronauts' suits. Astronauts wear gold-plated head shields for protections outside the spaceship. In conclusion, gold is treasured not only for its beauty but also its utility.
Okay. Treasure. Treasure. Not only for its beauty, but also its utility. Yes. And we can probably know more uses of gold. We know that gold is, is a better conductor of electricity than any other metal, but it's expensive. That's why we don't use it that much. Okay, so we have here a standalone paragraph telling us about gold. Okay, and this is a very, very interesting approach um, in paragraph writing. Okay, so we call it T. What is it? T is just an abbreviation for topic, explanation, or elaboration, which is the same as discussing something, and example or evidence. Okay, and okay, how does this work? Before we get into that, let's just get something straightened up. Explanation and elaboration tell the reader more about the topic, just to be clear. Okay, evidence and examples give the reader specific details that support your topic. Okay, and that means that they prove the claim about the topic, which makes it a valid statement. Now, all of these we can obtain from this paragraph. How? How can we get all of this information from a standalone paragraph? It's easy. We use this tool and we get all the info. How? I'll show you. Okay. It's the same. This is the same paragraph. Okay. We have our tool. We have T, topic, explanation, or elaboration, E, example or evidence. And we do a breakdown. So we have the topic sentence. Gold, a precious metal, is prized for its important characteristics. So we have an explanation. First of all, gold has a lustrous beauty that is resistant to corrosion. Okay. We have another elaboration in regards to the topic. It is suitable for jewelry, coins, and ornamental purposes. Okay. And we have some evidence. Gold never needs to be polished and will remain beautiful forever. We have an example because it tells us, for example, a Macedonian coin remains as untarnished today as the day it was minted 23 centuries ago. Okay. And we have another elaboration here. Another important characteristic of gold is its usefulness to industry and science. Okay. Evidence. For many years, it has been used in hundreds of industrial applications. We have another example. The most recent use of gold is in astronaut suits. And we have another explanation. Astronauts wear gold-plated heat shields for protection outside the spacesuit. Okay. And another explanation is, in conclusion, gold is treasured not only for its beauty, but also its utility. Now, using this tool, we can get all the information in different sections. So we just don't have words. We can identify what's going on within each one. We're doing a breakdown in regards to this standalone paragraph. Up to here, do you have any questions? Any questions, guys? No? Believe it or not, perhaps in writing essays, is not something that we consider very useful at this time, unless you're trying to pursue a certificate from the British Council or from Cambridge, where they will make you write an essay and they will give you the topics and you will have to structure your essay. Now, in that case, yes, we need to be careful how to structure our ideas, depending on the type of essay they want us to write. It could be a biography, it could be just a persuasive essay, etc. We don't know. But other than that, perhaps we don't find these very useful, but do not be do not consider that this is not going to be used, because sometimes in some of the questions that we take from the TOEFL, they are misleading sometimes some of the questions, and they might make us look into the wrong answer. So having a tool like this one will help us to better answer any of the questions that perhaps we might have in an exam like IELTS or TOEFL. Do not be misled of not having to learn a tool like this one. It'll help us. Okay, it's like if anyone here in the class present is familiar with Six Sigma, it's like using different types of tools for Six Sigma when solving a problem. It's the same case, only for literary concepts, grammar, structures, and punctuation is the same case. This is one of the tools that we can use so that we can solve our problems, get answers in few words. Now, an explanation of substantial paragraphs. And why substantial? Well, we have two. For this one, I need another volunteer. Anyone wants to try it? Joanne, if you want to give it a shot.
Hello, teacher. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm read all the paragraph, teacher.
Yes, please help me with the first one. Explanation of substantial paragraphs. So let's talk about the first one.
Okay. Consider accepted
Packaging.
okay. packaging, the synthetic packaging for the juice
Box.
box, so box. So many children bring to school with their lunch one crisis of
Criticism.
okay, one criticism of as aseptic packaging is that is the nearly impossible to recline yet
Recycle.
recycle. Okay, recycle and yet on almost every other count, aseptic packaging is environmentally preferable to other packaging alternatives. Not only do aspect containers not require refrigeration,
Ref-
but their
refrigeration.
refrigeration, but their manufacture also require less than one.
1/10.
Okay, 1/10 the energy of making a glass bottle.
Okay, thank you, Joe. So in this first paragraph, what is the main idea? What is the main idea of this paragraph, guys? Well, it's very easy. It's right here. It's not actually underlined. We're talking about synthetic packaging, especially for juice boxes. Let's go to the second paragraph. Camila, can you help us with this one?
What is true for just juice boxes is also true for the other forms of synthetic packaging. The use of polystyrene, which is commonly referred to as a styrofoam,
Styrofoam.
styrofoam can reduce food waste dramatically due to its insulation properties. Polystyrene also requires significantly fewer resources to produce than its paper counterpart.
Okay, so what's happening here in these two paragraphs? We're still talking about synthetic packaging, right? In the last one, we're talking about polystyrene or styrofoam. And in the first one, we're talking about a more specific packaging used for food, but concealed food or storing food, okay? So again, like Camila was explaining earlier, substantial paragraphs help us to have a better understanding of our thesis statements doing a breakdown. Okay, any questions here? Anyone? No? Anybody? No questions? Okay, so let's see. Let me show you my screen. Oops, give me just a second. Let me go back to where we stayed. Okay, so now we have a better understanding between substantial paragraphs and standalone positional paragraphs. Let's continue. So why are paragraph transitions important? Because paragraph transitions link ideas, give your writing momentum, they give you that feeling. Improve readability? Yes. They don't sound too repetitive. Or maybe that our ideas are not well organized and they are all over the place. And also, they give us that transition so that we can switch from one idea to another. Anybody wants to share maybe another reason why transitions are important? Can you think about any more reasons why? Anybody? Can you think of any other reasons why? No? That's it? Okay. So let's go deeper into just the simple explanations that we mentioned in the previous slide. Let's get more into details. So paragraph transitions link ideas. Okay, so let's talk about this. Mauricio, can you help us? Hello?
Teacher, sorry. Um, Paragraph transition link ideas. First and foremost,
Paragraph transitions link to ideas. Can we go to the second bullet?
teacher, I think my
I think he left. Okay, Rodrigo, can you help us read the slide?
Okay, teacher. Um, First and foremost, paragraph transitions serve to link two ideas. A body paragraph is generally devoted to a main idea or concept that fits into the larger piece and explores a facet of the primary thesis statement. A transition sentence links your first paragraph to your second paragraph and so forth.
Okay. Thank you, Rodrigo. Let's go to the next part. Okay, is writer back? John, can you help us with this one?
Yes, yes, teacher.
Hello?
I had problems with my connection, but I couldn't hear your question or phrase well, teacher.
Okay, can you help us read this slide?
Yes, yes, teacher. Why are paragraph transitions important? Continue. Two paragraph transitions give your writing momentum. Paragraph transitions are incredibly helpful when it comes to building momentum in your writing. Effective transitions propel your essay forward and keep your readers engaged. Engaged. This is particularly important in academic writing or professional writing, what can otherwise feel dry or static.
Yes, that can feel otherwise dry or static. In few words, boring. So yes, that's why we use transitions. And also a good subject to talk about, right? Thank you, Ryder. Joanne, can you help me with the third idea?
Paragraph transition improve readability. Transition words can help your reader track your idea and understand how they relate to each other.
Relate
mm,
to each other?
relate to each other through for transition clear readers into the progression of your idea and your whole, overall chain of thought.
Okay. So yes, if it's gonna help you improve your reading abilities, it's going to escalate the level of ideas that you're gonna have in your reading. And also it'll help us to improve our capability of writing about our ideas. Okay, thank you, Joe. And I believe I skipped one. Yes, something happened, but let me go back. So set the stage for new ideas. I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. Like we have been talking about, transitions are pretty much just an example of an essay itself. And that in the first two essays that we have been talking about, we have an introduction, we have a body, we have a conclusion. But each paragraph is within itself a small version of an essay. Okay. That being said, just like we saw with our substantial paragraphs, it helps us organize easily all the information. Unless you feel more comfortable with standalone paragraphs, you're more than welcome. But remember, unless you're talking, in the case of the example that we were talking about, we mentioned gold. Maybe the thesis statement was not about gold, but about precious metals. And we dedicated one standalone paragraph just dedicated to gold. That's why that paragraph is so big. So at this point, we have many, many tools on how to organize our information. Okay. So I will fix that and I'll share it to you guys. Make it smaller. And we talk about transitions, right? So whenever we have a new idea and we agree to something, we said in the past that these transitions can be used to open a paragraph that covers another similar idea. Okay, we can say in addition, additionally, moreover, furthermore, next, similarly, first, second, and third. And this is something that is very, very useful. This is actually a very useful technique. However, it's not recommended that we use it a lot. And on the same token, all of these to express new ideas and agreements. Some other examples of transitions. We talk about contradictions and oppositions. And let's see, Camila, can you help me with this slide? Let me make it smaller so we can see all the information.
Contradiction, opposition. These are words and phrases when you are beginning a paragraph that contrast with previous paragraphs or at least present alternatives. However, on the contrary, in contrast, on the other hand, nonetheless, nevertheless, regardless, in spite of, and be that as it may.
Okay, so Camila, we have other options for however.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's continue. Now, for consequence. Mauricio, can you help me with the reading?
A consequence, if you are opening a new paragraph that builds off the previous paragraph by showing a cause and effect relationship, you may cause some of the phrases below that as a part of an adverb clause. Adverb clauses are phrases that, like adverbs, answer how, when, where, and to what extent. As a result of, as a consequence of, with this in mind, example, as a result of the previously mentioned improvement in scores, teachers are considering whether to make assignments and tests more difficult.
Okay, so we were given an example on how to use one of the consequence transitions. And we are only here looking at 3 examples. I'm pretty sure there's more and we have discussed them. And these especially for engineers, these are very important whenever we submit a report or the results for a test or something. Yes, this is something that will give the reader that chance to say, okay, out of all of this information you're showing, this is what I want to know. Yes, no, or happy. Okay. Now let's go into the conclusion section. So who is missing reading? Okay. Writer, can you help me with the conclusions?
Conclusions. These transitions help you to signal that uh, you're closing out your paper. Keep in mind that conclusion paragraphs summarize or restate your thesis.
Thesis. Okay.
Thesis.
So remember your introduction, you state your thesis, and in your conclusion section, you summarize all of the information, but also keeping in mind what you said in your thesis statement. Continue, writer, please.
In conclusion, to conclude, in summary, to sum up, in short, on the whole, all together.
All together. Okay. Any questions about transitions involving conclusions? No. And I believe that's all in regards to reading ideas to use transitions at the beginning of new paragraphs. Okay, so we have completed this section. Now let's do some work. I have here selected some exercises provided by the British Council. And these exercises are legit, very similar to something you will find in a test from Cambridge, TOEFL, IELTS, so on. And I like them a lot because they give us the opportunity to get familiar with the reading structures, and it challenges us on some of the on some of the questions that are being asked, and also if we fully understand what we're reading. And I want to make sure that what we read, we know what we are talking about and what we are discussing. As you can see, I'll show you a little bit about the structure of these type of exercises. Before I continue, have anyone in class seen some of these exercises before? Were you familiar with these type of exercises at this point there? No? This is the first time you see this type of exercise. Yes, teacher, it's the first time. Okay, so I'm going to assume this is the first time we see this type of exercises. So you can see here on it's my right hand side, upper right hand side, you can see that it's a reading exercise, C1 level. That means advanced. Higher than these will be a C2 level, which is a native native level reading. And then we have the title of this exercise, How Humans Evolve Language. This is the name of the exercise. And then we have some instructions, but before we have an introduction, read an academic text about how humans evolve language to practice and improve your reading skills. Okay, so before we read, we do a preparation task. That means we're going to get familiar with some of the vocabulary before we get into context with the reading in this case. Because some of these exercises could be reading, could be writing. What other type of exercises do you think we can find? Reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Yes. In this case, reading. And the first preparation task, match the definitions A to H with the vocabulary 1 to 8. So let's practice this vocabulary, guys, okay? Let's see, number one. Let's see, Camila, can you read the vocabulary word and tell us the definition?
First one, a chimpanzee
Chimpanzee.
maybe it can be it would be relating to the way in which living things develop over millions of years. Actually, no, a species of ape. I don't know what is ape, teacher, but I think that is the one.
Ape. Anybody knows what's an ape? Ape? Anybody knows?
An ape is a synonym of chimpanzee.
Well, ape is the main structure. Ape is the main concept. Because let me ask you something. A chimpanzee has a tail. ¿Tienen cola los chimpancés? Oh, very good question. ¿Recuerdan? Does a chimpanzee has a tail? What about a gorilla? ¿Tienen cola? Does a gorilla has a tail?
No.
No? A chimpanzee? Okay. No, a chimpanzee doesn't have any tail. So that means a chimpanzee, a gorilla, is a type of ape, mono. What about the ones that they have tail, como monkeys? That's another species. So in this case, that's what we're doing. We're segregating a species of ape, a chimpanzee. Another species could be a gorilla. Okay. Let's go for the next one. Writer, please read.
Linguistics.
Okay.
Um,
So what's the definition?
Option A, the study of language.
That's correct. 3. Rodrigo?
Evolutionary. Letter B, relating to the way in which living things develop over millions of years.
That's correct. Mauricio, 4. Mauricio, can you hear me? Or Joanne? 4, please.
Teacher,
Oh, hello?
can you hear
Hello?
me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Civilized.
Civilized.
Civilized is F, socially advanced and developed.
Okay. Socially advanced and developed. Yes. And remember, this is British, so that's why we have civilized with an S. What about 5? Joanne?
To mutate.
To mutate.
Okay. To change into something different.
Yes. Okay. And writer? 6?
DNA. A chemical that carries genetic information.
That's correct. 7, Camila?
Innate. It's D. Existing in us since birth. Natural rather than learned.
Okay. And 8, Rodrigo?
An artifact is an object made by a human, especially one that is of historical interest.
Okay, good. So we did the first part of the preparation. Now let's get into the reading. Okay, so let's see. Let's go into the first paragraph. Writer, can you help us read?
Reading text, how humans evolved language. A. Thanks to the field of linguistics, we know much about the development of the 5,000 plus
Languages?
languages in existence today. We can describe their grammar and pronunciation and see how their spoken and writing forms have changed over time. For example, we understand that origins of the Indo-European group of language, which includes Norwegian, Hindi, and English, and can trace them back to trips in Eastern Europe in about 3000 before Christ.
Christ, before Christ. Okay, thanks to the field of linguistics, right? So don't forget that we have here a letter A. Let's go to the next paragraph, but it's within the same structure. Okay, so let's continue. Rodrigo, can you help us?
So we have mapped out a great deal of the history of language, but there are still areas we know little about. Experts are beginning to look to the field of evolutionary biology to
Biology?
find biology to find out how the human species developed to be able to use language. So far, there are far more questions and half theories than answers.
Okay, thank you. And that we completed the section A. Let's get into the B. Camila?
We know that human language is far more complex than on even our nearest and most intelligent relatives like chimpanzees. We can express complex thoughts, convey subtle emotions, and communicate about abstract concepts such as past and future. And we do this following a set of structural rules known as grammar. Do only humans use an innate system of rules to govern the order of words? Perhaps not, as some research may suggest. Dolphins share this capability because they are able to recognize when these rules are broken.
Okay. Any questions on vocabulary here? Now let's get to part C. Okay. So who's next? Mauricio?
Part C, if we want to know where our capability for complex language came from, we need to look at how our brains are different from other animals. This relates to more than just brain size. It is important what other things our brains can do and when and why they evolve that way. And for this there are very few physical clues. Artifacts left by our ancestors don't tell us what speech they were capable of making. One thing we can see in the remains of early humans, however, is the development of the mouth, throat, and tongue. By about 100,000 years ago, humans had evolved the ability to create complex sounds. Before that, evolutionary biologists can only guess whether or not early humans communicated using more basic sounds.
Okay, let's go to part D. Writer? Writer? Can you hear me?
Yes, teacher.
Okay,
Teacher,
can you help us with D?
the okay. Another question is, what is it about human brains that allowed language to evolve in a way that it did not in other primates? At some point, our brains became able to make our mouths produce vowel and consonant sounds, and we developed the capacity to invent words to name things around us. These were the basic ingredients for complex language. The next change would have been to put those words into sentence, similar to the proto-language children use when they first learn to speak. No one knows if the next step, adding grammar to signal past, present, and future, for example, or plurals and relative clauses, required a, a further development in the human brain, or was simply a response to our increasingly civilized way of living together.
Thank you, writer. Civilized way of living together. Okay, so next, Joanne. Yes, Joanne, can you hear me?
Just, mm, be, between okay, between 100,000 and 15 thousand. Okay. Years ago, so they start to see the evidence of early human civilization. So keep um, breathing, for example, no one know the connection between this and language brain didn't suddenly get bigger, get humans did become more complex and more intelligent. Was it using language that caused their brain to um, develop, or did their more complex brain start producing language?
Okay, thank you. Let's go to E. Camila.
More questions lie in looking at the influence of genetics on brain and language development. Are there genes that mutated and gave us language ability? Researchers have found a gene mutation that occurred between 200,000 and 100,000 years ago, which seems to have a connection with speaking and how our brains control our mouths and face. Monkeys have a similar gene, but it did not undergo this mutation. It's too early to say how much influence genes have on language, but one day the answers might be found in our DNA.
Okay, so I believe we have concluded the reading. Now, before we get into details, what type of essay is this? Is it an informative, expository? What type of essay is it? according to what we have learned so far, can we determine what type of essay we're talking about here? Okay. We are giving information, but also we are asking questions. So it's not only an informative essay, right? Now, we have some exercises here. According to what we read, we have here some headings. Match the headings with the parts of the text A to E. And I posted this PDF in the group. You should have it in your WhatsApp so that you can go back and look into the essay because we're going to need it to complete this exercise. Okay, so we have the first task and we need to be able to match the headings. According to A, what is the one that best suits A? Okay. For 2, we're going to answer some true and false. And then we have at the end a final discussion. Okay. This is for grade, guys. Okay. This is for grade so that I can determine if we are paying close attention to what we're reading and if we can follow instructions. So I'll give you 10 minutes to complete this exercise and then we review and then we check the answers and you give me your grade. So at this point you have the PDF in your WhatsApp. I'll leave here the questions as a backup, okay? But don't forget the discussion at the end, okay? But this is mainly the parts that we are going to grade, task 1 and 2. So please complete this exercise, okay? And we have approximately 10 minutes to complete it, okay? Any questions? Any questions about this? So don't forget, we need to complete this exercise. PDF is in the WhatsApp group. Please complete this information. And we check in 10 minutes.
When we have to send it, teacher?
Right? At this moment, we need to complete it. You have 10 minutes. Okay, guys, I assume you are finished. So let's see. Match the headings with the parts of the text. So A, what would be the best heading you would give for A? For paragraphs in section A. Anybody?
What
Writer?
we know.
Yes, that's correct. What we know. What about B?
How unique we are.
Okay, how unique? What about C? Mauricio?
The physical evidence.
Mhm. Rodrigo? D?
How linguistic capacity involved?
Okay. How linguistic? Okay. And the last one, of course, the tiny change that may separate us from monkeys. Now let's go into the true and false sections. Okay. Number one, Camila. Can you read the statement and say if it's true or false?
Experts fully understand how the Hindi language developed, and that is false.
Experts fully understand how the Hindi language developed.
Sorry, it's true, it's true.
Okay, it's true. Number two, writer.
The grammar of dolphin language follows the same rules as human language. It's false.
False. Three, Joanne.
Okay. Brain sense is not the only factor in determining language capability.
Brain size.
Brain size. Okay. Is false.
Okay, it's true. Four, Rodrigo.
The language of very young children has something in common with the way our prehistoric ancestors may have spoken. I think it's false.
Okay, number four. Anyone else has a different answer? The answer is true. Five. Okay, Camila.
When people start using complex language, their brains got bigger. I think that it's true because it says that it will be getting bigger at the time that they start to know the vowels and everything, I think.
Actually, it's false. Six, writer.
The role of genetics in language capacity is not yet clear. True.
Yes, this is very true. Okay, so now let's get into the discussion section. Do you think monkeys and dolphins have complex language like humans do? I want to hear everybody's opinion. So let's start with Mauricio. What is your answer?
Sorry, teacher. I think that they have a complex language, but it's like I think that they use I don't know frequency that humans cannot understand. So in our perspective, we we really can't see how complex is his language, their language. But I think that they have a complex language talking about frequencies.
In the case of dolphins, right?
Yes,
In water, because water is actually a good means of communication and energy to transmit energy. Okay, thank you. Rodrigo, do you think monkeys and dolphins have complex language like humans do?
I think the dolphins, yes, they have a complex language like humans because they have um, mm, verbal communications or ways of communication like vowel sounds and it's ecolocalic echolocation. I don't know how is the name, but they have a complex language. In other hand, the monkeys no, they just emit sounds that mm, don't have the same verbal communication.
Okay. Yes, monkeys are different, but I haven't heard exactly the difference. But that's a good answer at this point. Let me see. Ryder, can you give us your input?
Teacher, I think that dolphins in particular have a complex language because I know of case where dolphins collaborate um, with Brazilian uh, fishermen to fish and then receive a reward. Um, they take or lead the fish to the fisherman's net.
Okay, so they also not only have a good communication skills, but they also have teamwork skills, right? They know how to cooperate. They're organized as well. Their language is so complex that it gives them the capability of being able to have to set up complex activities and get organized, plan. Okay, that's a good answer. Yeah, I did not know that. That's actually a good source. And let's see, Joanne, Do you think monkeys and dolphins have complex language like humans do?
Um, I, okay. I think the dolphins mm, okay, dolphins have a complex language mm, because this mm, this may change depending on the location or their interaction with other mm, not specifically peoples, but in your space. Oh,
Okay. And thank you, Joe. Camila, do you think monkeys and dolphins have complex language like humans do?
Well, I know a little bit about the dolphins because our research showed that they have like a complex language, and they also can have or can uh, produce sentences, long sentences between them.
Yes.
So I know that they have a complex language between them and with the persons because they can understand the things. But I don't know much about monkeys. I know that they can also communicate, but their communication is not so evolved or not so complex like ours or like dolphins.
It depends because there's different species of apes. Uh, but for example, monkeys, they communicate with sounds, but they are also very visual. Like for example, they communicate in sign language. More closely to something that we do. We communicate verbally, but we also use our hands. We use body expressions. We do movements with our limbs. So we communicate. Maybe they're not as complex as dolphins because let's face it, dolphins are much more exposed and much more free in water than monkeys. But statistically speaking, yes, dolphins are way more intelligent because they can actually get organized, like we just said a couple of minutes ago. Anyways, we will continue with another exercise next time, and it's going to be different. Okay, and whatever your score is, remember. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's 11 in total. So remember, if you got 11 out of 11, send me a text so that I can record it. And write down British Council, how humans evolved, okay? If you got 10 out of 11, it's okay, just give me your grade, okay? So that I can record it. And that'll be all for my behalf for today. Send me your grade, please, I need it. If not, I'm just gonna leave a 0. And if you could please complete the survey. I already posted the survey. And that'll be all for my behalf for tonight. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, teacher. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Teacher.
Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.